of energy. And what we are seeing now is the government promoting more and more types of clean energy production in Mexico. So I would say, in our particular case, the best way to accelerate that is to promote for the regulators to increase incentives and the openness of the market for people to invest in these technologies for power generation. I mean, in our case, demand is there. There is need for significantly higher amounts of power generation in our country. So the opportunity is certainly there. And besides the switching from fuel oil to natural gas, there is ample opportunity for clean energy sources.
So I'm glad you talked about, waste heat recovery boilers. In carbon black industry that I lead, I produce close to 500 megawatts of power, which is entirely clean energy because the tail gas, instead of getting blown out, I use it into boilers and I produce electricity. But coming back to your question of what suggestions we have for IFC or World Bank, I think 3 or 4. One is that you come across your partner organization, your investee companies who have done innovative work. So you are a ready-made platform, you can move it around the world without violating their IPR with their consent perhaps. Maybe when you lend it, you make it a part of your lending process to say any innovative thing you do in the green area, you would be willing to share with other emerging market players who are not your competitors. At least that much can be done. I think that could be part of your agenda. Second is this Better Work project with ILO that you're doing. We heard about that. Similarly, you could have an initiative called Green Technology Project, where all you do is work with, let's say, chemical industry. They are working with the apparel and footwear industry, or you could work with the chemical industry to create an equivalent of a Better Work project to, say, Green Technology Project. The third one is, going back to Philippe's point of what is innovation, that you sometimes do away old ways of doing things. Given the expertise you have on technical side with you and on sustainability, there are many manufacturing processes that continue to use extremely old technology for whatever reason. There have been industries that have never changed for hundreds of years, same core technology is there. You will find many industries are there that first use a lot of water, then take the material into dryer to dry the water out, consuming high energy. So this is an unfathomable process, why you first have to put in a lot of water into the process and then use more energy to dry it out. Now, that's because nobody is taking initiative to invest or identify which are those manufacturing processes that have not evolved and continue to do it in old ways. And I think if you can identify a list of that and collaborate with universities or labs and others to find newer ways, I think there are many, many different ways, given your power, your reach, for electricity boards in the emerging markets. Lot of coal-based electricity is generated, and most of it is wasted through transmission losses because these are bad networks and transmission systems. Now, how do you help them to upgrade those faster so that the coal burning is reduced in emerging markets? I think there are several projects that, given your reach, your connectivity, your knowledge base, your expertise, and your resources, I think there's a phenomenal amount of work you can do.
Yeah, and to, oops, I don't know, yes? Is it working? No?
It is.
Yes? Okay. To carry on your question, I think you probably have to scale up what you are already doing. And I just take an example, what was done in India with the roadmap that we developed, the low carbon technology roadmap that we developed in India, which was a subset of the global one. We developed this roadmap in 2013. A roadmap is basically you have some technical experts which develop some solutions, their potential impact, their costs, and so on and so forth. Then it's given to the International Energy Agency, and the International Energy Agency says what would be the impact of this technology to remain within the 2-degree scenario of temperature increase above pre-industrial levels. But when you have this roadmap and when you know what would be the impact of the technology Okay, that's nice to have a book on a shelf, but if you don't implement, that's completely useless. So in India, what was decided is that the companies who had participated in the development of this roadmap for the cement sector, they volunteered to have some plans in which they would really implement some solutions and validate what would be the time for the return on investment and so on and so forth. And that process, which is costly, was half-half financed by the companies and by IFC. So that's typically the type of things that can accelerate the companies implementing technologies and trying to validate what was developed on a theoretical point of view and make sure that what we have in this roadmap really happens when we implement the technology. So this type of example, I think, can be scaled up in other parts of the world or in other sectors, and that's really helpful to have this partnership for the sector.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else who has a question or a remark? Not at the moment. Then let me come in on a point that you have made already. Basically, I think everybody here in the room agrees that the slogan should be "Make manufacturing great again." Question is how to do that.
Whose leadership, by the way?
Question is how to do that practically. Because if I see us here on the panel, the industries we represent, then I think we have a very good overview of carbon black. I mean, I'm based in Brussels, so basically, if I knock at the door representing the petrochemical industry, then I have to push quite hard at the door. Whereas if I represented bio dong 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 or green dot dot dot, the door opens almost automatically. So, and if I see carbon black in Brussels, carbon and black in that composition, you would get at least an eyebrow. Yeah. So you are, I think, well off with the sustainability thing, but chemical industry, specifically petrochemical industry, means also energy intensity. Then people immediately associate that with carbon emissions, CO2 emissions, what have you. That means the image of the industry is, and you said old processes at times and so on. So the image is not stressing the benefits of those industries, which are largely unknown. If we are in a room somewhere, then usually people come and say, go away with petrochemicals. We love Apple, we love our iPhone, we love solar panels. And say, by the way, your iPhone is full of petrochemicals. Did you know that? So, oops, I did not know. Yeah, so people are not aware of the benefits and how much of those products produced by those industries they use. But they are very much focused on, let's say, the kind of negative image that is obviously transferred from generation to generation. So what can we do? Linking into what you said, what could we do to, let's say, turn this into a positive way, to stress more the benefits for millennials as future workforce, for regulators, to give them a better insight in what the actual regulation would be, to media, to the consumer on the road?
I think it's not going to be an easy task, but if you do not start ever, you would never be there either. So I believe that, A, it requires more friendly and persuasive communication, like somebody who using cell phone, not knowing that there's petrochemicals in there. I wish I'd brought it. We have produced a document called Big in Your Life, and we are showing right from the drinking water that is carried in a plastic pipe that carries carbon black, to so many other things in your life that carbon black is applied to. We have created a document. And that document today we are circulating in the neighborhood community of our plants and inviting on open days families and children to come and say, we present them data on health to say, look, people have worked here 35 years, 25 years, the mortality rate or incidence of X, Y, or Z disease is less or as much as anywhere else in the world, and therefore there is no impact on you as a community. Bringing school children to come and do projects and see the different kinds of technology being used. I think it is all about information, communication, excitement, explaining, and timely countering negative news that is coming in. Sometimes, perhaps in manufacturing, too quickly we get defensive, rather than go and make positive communication. I think we need to fundamentally revisit our strategy of how we engage with stakeholders And we need to engage in the medium that they understand. For example, if you're trying to explain to a millennial, then you might as well create a game or something which he relates to understand to this. But if you go with a good old slide presentation to explain to him how great carbon black or chemical industry is, perhaps he may not relate to that. I think it is a fundamental question of every stereotype and every bias is very hard to deal with. And let's understand that for whatever reason, through popular media, a lot of debates and awareness, there is a certain bias, a stigma, something has got attached to the resource-based industries. So we need to maybe quadruple our efforts and in an innovative way to break through that and communicate a different story. And that's all you can do.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts?
It is certainly a challenge. We as an industry organization have been working in Mexico a lot, in particular with the young generations, with children and young people, in order to educate them on the benefits of many of our chemical products. You mentioned the iPhone. In fact, you could mention almost any product. Chemical products are basically in each and every one of the manufacturing processes, either as a raw material or as part of the process to produce basically any product. So I think education is what we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I would add, and I would include myself in the group. I think we are basically